Welcome to day 6 of our 30 days of daily play challenge in celebration of the daily play, my new 365-day art journal, which is all about reigniting your creative spark. So day 6 is all about pattern making. We are working on making our mark right now. Yesterday was kind of the first of the making your mark prompts in the start here section. Today we are on day 6 and we're working on some patterns. So on day 6, which is on the left-hand side here, we used a brush pen to create nice thin and thick lines. And we also used our Sakura Micron pen as well to get those nice, fine, thin lines. So which one did you prefer? That's the first step. Did you prefer using a brush pen or did you prefer using your standard kind of, whether it's a roller ball or a ballpoint or a drawing pen like this? I want you to choose your favorite. And I think you know by now, 6 days in, that the brush pen is my favorite. And we're going to fill these boxes with patterns using only lines, okay? So we're going to experiment by mixing short dashes with longer strokes, varying the spacing between lines, and creating different line shapes. Like we can do wavy lines, straight lines, curved lines, or swirling lines. And I know that it's intimidating to look at a blank box or a blank page. And so I've half completed some patterns for you here, and we're going to finish those patterns together. I'll give you some ideas for the new ones, and then you are off to the races with your own pattern making using only lines. So this one down here was kind of inspired by tartan. My husband was born in Scotland, and if you're watching this live, we're actually heading to Scotland this summer, which I'm super excited about. So let's finish this pattern together. And again, I'm using the tip of my brush pen to get thin lines for this whole pattern here. And 3 lines is going to complete this pattern. If you've ever heard of Zentangle, they're really relaxing ways to just use line work to create beautiful results. Today, we're more, again, just experimenting with our pen because a brush pen might be new to many of you, and just showing you that with a few basic marks, you can create something quite beautiful, and it's also very relaxing. Okay, so you want to take a look at the pattern here, and so the next line is going to be 3 vertical lines, 3 horizontal lines, and start to remember what we talked about on day 5, which is to pay attention to the sensory experience of making your marks. So instead of just, 3 lines, going about your day, I want you to start thinking about the way that your pen feels on the paper and maybe getting quiet enough to actually hear the sound of your pen. My dog was actually just barking a few minutes ago and luckily didn't catch that on camera, but it's all part of the experience. And I might even try to slow down, and that changes the experience as well. So we're going to do small stars mixed with bigger stars. And what you might not be noticing as you're doing these is that you're actually building what's called muscle memory. So the more that you engage in these very simple activities, you are building the actual muscle memory in your hands, similar to going to the gym and learning to lift weights. You are building muscle memory in your hands in order to be able to achieve calligraphy and a bunch of the other drawing techniques that you're going to be learning throughout the rest of your 365-day journal. And this would be a good one for my extra fine micron pen, but I'm just going with it in the spirit of exploration and play instead of perfection and performance. And so starting to think about what we can do in these blank boxes over here. One of my favorite things to do if you're a little bit stuck on where to start is to just think about your day. What did you do today? So for me, I went for a walk in our neighborhood park, and we have this beautiful river that flows by, and that kind of inspired this pattern over here. But we could get even a little bit more literal with just water. And so I might create, do you remember when we were kids? We would create this sort of wave pattern. I feel like that would be a fun one. And just create waves up the entire box. And when you're completing this page, you could set a timer if you want, and then just kind of stop when the timer's up, and that way you're not spending more than enough time that you want. But I find you can get kind of lost on prompts like this. And this is going to help you get into that flow state where you're doing something challenging but not impossible. Another one, again, this reminds me of when we were kids, is to imagine we're drawing like grass. I remember when I was a kid, I used to draw it like this. And so you're just creating a pattern that kind of symbolizes grass. And now I'm going to try to slow down. The closer you hold your brush pen, so I'm really close to the tip right now, the more control you have. The higher up on the barrel of your brush pen you are, the less control you have. So if you feel like you're getting too bogged down in the weeds of things, I would say move higher up. I could feel myself, I was too close and I was being too detailed, and so I'm going to move higher up on the barrel, and that's going to make me loosen up a little bit. And if you are using a brush pen for the first time, maybe you do want to experiment with those thin and thick lines. And so you do a very simple pattern like thick downstroke, thin upstroke. Thick downstroke, thin upstroke. Such a simple pattern, but one I find myself doing over and over again when I'm doing cards. Thick on the down, thin on the up. You'll hear me say that a lot throughout our calligraphy practice, which is coming up soon in our 30 days of daily play. So challenge yourself to complete that whole page of patterns here, and then pat yourself on the back, the equivalent of a pat on the back in the psychological world, which is coloring in your habit tracker for day 6. You completed another prompt inside your brand new art journal, the daily play, 365 prompts to reignite your creative spark. See you tomorrow.